All right, so this is the Water Advisory Committee meeting. This meeting was originally scheduled for September 15th, but due to a lack of quorum, we postponed it to today. We have Peter Grand by Zoom, and Greg and Dave and me, so we have a quorum. Thanks to the members of the public who are joining. So let's get on with it. So I've called the meeting to order. Next is the review and approval of the August 18 meeting. Any comments on those minutes?
No comments.
Okay.
I'm
Motion.
happy with them. They look good.
I just want to compliment the drafting.
I'll make
Motion,
a motion to approve the minutes.
motion seconded. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Item number 3, process for implementing WAC decisions. I'm channeling Sean Davey, who couldn't be with us today. He had some follow-up items. I think it was on the drought policy guidance, and found himself chasing various members, including me, for comments. And so I kind of was watching this email traffic, and I said to myself, we need to have a process for follow-up so members aren't chasing things and actions actually get done. So I'll suggest this as a follow-up. First, the chair, myself, I will, at the end of a discussion about some topic that needs follow-up, I'll assign an owner. That'll probably be the person who led the discussion. That owner will circulate any documents, lay out a plan for follow-up actions, or whatever is appropriate given the topic and the decisions, and then send a memo or an email to the members of the committee, kind of laying out, look, this is what we decided, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to follow up. Here's the key point. Members of the committee have 48 hours to respond to the memo. If you don't respond to the memo, that silence is taken as go ahead. Okay, so silence means yes. 48 hours to respond. And then the owner goes forward with the action. So if someone comes up later, month later, weeks later, and says, oh, I don't like that, well, too bad. Okay, their opportunity to comment is during that 48 hours. And so watch your emails after the 48 hours after the meeting, and chime in if you think we need to chime in. You need to chime in. Next thing is that Jessica back is our link to the town administration. All right, so if something needs to get posted somewhere, something needs to get purchased, like specimen bottles or whatever else, okay, that goes to Jessica. She handles all that. So we have a place to go. All right, so I'd like to propose that as a way forward.
It sounds like a good way forward.
Okay, all right. Peter, you okay with that?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. Next on the agenda is precipitation and well status report. Greg.
Okay. Jessica, then if you want to put the report up. This is unfortunately was prepared for the last meeting. We've basically right now, if the government doesn't shut down, we'll be getting the September readings on Wednesday or Thursday. If the government shuts down, we're not. Shelter Island is not a critical agency, apparently. Some of the things that are involved here in the report is that at the last meeting, we talked about, maybe modifying and providing a stronger summary of what the results are rather than kind of having them rolled back in. So page 1 of that report would be a way to do it. I'm not sure. I think that the idea is to try and bring this so that there's a nice clean summary ready to be reviewed by the committee, and then make our decisions as to what warnings we might begin or not. So as things were, again, this is basically, the information is about a month old. There were the regional and state organization drought intensity, and those are the pictures here that if that would be page 2 and then page 3. This is what the previous page. Oh no, this page here. This is what the New York DEC, when they evaluate and the drought conditions, this is what they provide. Because there have been a number of changes over the past month and a half, the way that this is starting to reflect a little bit more of what the Northeast DEWS report is.
But this is still August 29th.
Say that again, Peter, I'm sorry.
This is the end of August, not the end of September.
This is to the end of,
Right.
yes, end of August is correct. The pages here are, show, again, my preference is the Northeast DEWS, but seeing what we're getting, the changes that we've received from the state, they don't date their results, which is annoying to me, frankly. But there's a lot of dry. The Northeast remains quite dry. As a matter of fact, that area of severe drought has expanded through, it must be half of Maine, I think, and half of New Hampshire as well. There is, I am able to get, and I pulled the information from, if you can put the one that's got the red markings on it, so you can see what's there is that that shows moderate drought. And then what I just picked up here on the 23rd, and it's basically the same now, is extreme drought. The middle of Maine has extreme, West Virginia, which is also has extreme drought. This is the current New York State DEC, and you can see the areas that were in green, where they're now in the more intense result. The other, you can see the areas, that red blotch is extreme drought. We remained in a abnormally dry condition through 2 days ago. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. There's a lot. That's the Northeast region, and they do provide you a percentage, which I didn't write down, but it's something like 95% of the Northeast there is in a drought condition. The only area is Delaware. So the way that taking that information on the drought policies under the background summary thought, it would be what I've written for that. As of on August 29, the New York State DEC added Shelter Island to their watch status, the initial drought intensity category. So as far as the state is, the state is now caught up, if you will, with the Northeast DEWS. We're both under. There's a level of drought. It's not critical. The DEWS drought intensity remained unchanged to abnormally dry. Categories of large areas in New England are intensified to severe drought, and now we have areas that are extreme drought. So again, the idea of, if we were to, this would be what our conversation would be about looking at those two charts and saying, what takeaway are we providing on that? Does this make any sense? Is this
Yeah.
worthwhile?
That's worthwhile, and then you're going to take us to the well levels, right?
I'm going to take you through the west, take you to the rest, take you to the bridge, as they say.
But again, well levels through the end of last month, not this month.
Yes, well levels are, that data is as of August.
Mhm.
Percentile chart. Okay. The next piece of information that we have, or the next summary page that we do is the percentile level for the big four wells. And what we're looking, what I would report at this point, average of the big four monitoring wells, and we average all four, we don't do individuals. The average score improved from the 20th to the 29th percentile, supportive of a regarded abnormally dry rating, which is where we are now. Individual big four monitoring wells, 2 wells were greater than 30th percentile, and 1 27 and 1 the 13th percentile. The 13th percentile is Goat Hill. So Goat Hill seems to be lagging in terms of well height. And the chart that shows this is, this shows the history that we've been working with. And you can see we bounced up again at the 25th percentile, it's above 1 month, down the next. I don't have any numbers right now, although I can say that the results of the Goat Hill well are going to be increased to the 17th percentile. So it's going to be a slight pickup. And that's the only well that is providing information on the big four with the dashboard, which provides, it's a live active for. So the comment with that again would be, we can see that they're on the chart that I put out initially, which shows through the beginning of the end of August, things are improving slightly from where we were.
But Greg, just to be clear, the well that we can do real-time monitoring in is showing the worst results of all, right?
That would be correct in terms of the 4 wells.
Mhm.
And it may.
It might be the worst of all. 13th percentile is pretty damn low.
Yeah, it had been down, I think at 13, and now it's kind of moved, Goat Hill's moved up. I had not noticed in the past anything, the grading between is Goat Hill typically a stronger well? I can't say that I know that. That would have been something to look at closer. Then looking at the chart of well values versus history, which is section 3. And what this is the data again from the end of August. The blue boxes above the middle median, those are the shallower wells, which we typically see a quicker reaction to increased rainfall, and they're all looking pretty well. All of them are above the midpoint. So from the standpoint there, that's excellent news. Unfortunately, again, the larger wells, the deeper wells are all below the 50th. Although when you look at the numbers, the Manhasset well is at the 42nd percentile. The Manwaring at 35, Congdon 27, and again, it was 13. So we're from the standpoint of where we are now as a guarded, with a guarded opinion on notifying the public, we are concerned. Things are looking a touch better, I think, if that makes sense.
So, Andrew?
So I'm going back to our decision.
Right.
As of the last month, admittedly, this is based on what you've just been discussing is based on old data. But as of last month, we said drought level as moderate and proposing no daytime watering between hours of 9 and 6. Are you of a view that we should stay there, or do you want to make a change?
I think the whole committee ought to.
No, but I'm interested in your
Yeah,
opinion.
my opinion would be, I think that the improvement is there, but it is not to the point of where I would say, okay, just start to use the water more freely, if that makes any sense. So, I think that we need to continue to be focused on conserving.
I also think we should get from Peter the rainfall.
Well, Dave is being a little coy. So we had we had very minimal rainfall except for one day, which unfortunately was heavy enough that it knocked my rain gauge off of where I have it posted. So Dave himself probably has good numbers, but I will just say that, and he'll offer that in a moment, I'm sure. I will just say, though, that anybody who lives on a kettle hole like I do probably can tell you that things are lower. Things have receded. I'm looking at more, the fresh pond is at a lower level than I've seen it in quite a long time right now. And September, other than the day that we had substantial rain that knocked my rain gauge off, I think we only had 0.2 of an inch otherwise in September. So it was a very dry month. Dave, do you want to say more about what your rain gauges showed?
Mine was at 2.75 for the month.
For the month.
2.75 inches for the month. It's a very...
This is for September?
Yep. So I would only...
We didn't hit our number.
Increase the level of caution, not that we need to, put in more restrict. I mean, I think that being guarded, advised, relative, being fairly steady as we go is fine. It is a shame that the USGS might be hamstrung with that. We don't have their numbers yet, and that they might be hamstrung with the government shutdown. I hope that isn't the case. But I would expect that we're looking at, unless we start to see more rainfall, we're looking at, we're still in drawdown and not recharge yet.
At this point, again, this report being the August report, we were still drawing down. The drawdown was slower in August than it had been in July, but there's still a drawdown happening.
I would suggest it may have accelerated again a little bit. Just anecdotally looking at, I have a beachfront where I usually have water right up to the dock.
Right, so before we get to a decision point, Howard, member of the public, you want to comment on this topic?
Yeah.
Okay. Come to the podium and identify yourself.
From Conservation Advisory Council. Two things I have a question on. The last chart, well depth, it says MT for the Monantic well. What does that mean?
There was no data, there was nothing, in the data that we got from the USGS, there was nothing in Monantic. Now, whether or not she just inadvertently looked it out, or whether or not there was some issue with I don't know what the issue was, but the issue is that we did not get data from them.
So MT means
Yeah, empty, that cell. Everybody in Excel has their own, like,
Right.
little things that they use.
Empty cell.
Amen.
Yeah, it's an empty cell. Okay, so what is it?
Empty.
It's empty. That's,
Empty would be, yeah.
that's, and then I think everybody that uses Excel has their own
All
little,
right, what's your next question?
My next question is, and I disagree with Peter, I agree with Peter. The Dickinson pond is very low at this time, so.
Kettle Falls will show it.
I'd say it's very low, so I just wanted to bring that point up. Which affects the Monantic well. Like that, so.
All right, I'm going to make a recommendation. We hold at moderate, that we make no change in the recommendation of the daytime watering restriction from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. That when you get the data for the well data for September,
Right.
circulate that to commit that to the committee and to Joe. And I believe Joe, as the town engineer, has the authority to make a recommendation in between WAC meetings.
Right.
So if there's something about that data which significantly changes or supports a change from where we are, let's remind Joe that he's got that authority and that he should exercise it. So that's my recommendation. Just a minute, Howard. Do I have a second for that motion? Okay, second for the motion. Any committee comments on that motion?
it's fine with me.
Howard, do you have a comment on the motion?
No, not on the motion, but I just want to bring up a point on town submits a water level problem.
Let me take a vote on the motion, and then I'll come back to you. Okay, vote on the motion. All those in favor?
All in favor?
Okay, motion passes. Howard?
Howard Johansson again. On the town board, or the town website, it says that we're in irrigation limitation between the hours. I think it's 8 p.m. to 6 a.m.
No, it's 9 in the morning till 6 at night.
Right. Now, I've noticed violations of that, and we don't have a town enforcement.
Because it's voluntary.
It's just
voluntary.
voluntary, so there's nobody to report that somebody got it, even though it has an effect on the entire aquifer.
Correct.
But you can speak to your neighbor and say it's recommended that you not do so.
Yeah, but they don't, they just planted like new seedlings and stuff like that, the lawn, which is time to do it for fall, but we're in this cautionary period.
Mhm.
Just want to bring that point up.
Yeah, and I would just comment also, this just forms a backdrop to the irrigation subcommittee, which is continuing to meet and has a meeting upcoming to study advanced technologies for irrigation purposes. So it's important just to understand where we're at.
Okay, just a minute.
Right, this median doesn't, that's the whole global median.
Okay.
For the data. It
For
doesn't,
sorted by individual well,
yeah,
by
but
each well.
I mean, this isn't representative of the median for this month.
Okay, let's get back to
No,
Right.
no, the blue is the blue.
item number 5, which is the drought
Yeah.
policy guidance document, which was circulated with the meeting materials. That's There have been some comments to it. They're incorporated into the document. And I believe that we have already endorsed this and it has gone to the town board, but Sean is the owner of this. And I actually don't know more about the status than that. Does anyone know about the status? Jessica, you have any idea?
I don't know anything.
Sean did talk to me about it a little bit. You'll notice that the biggest revision on this document has to do with our making, drought recommendations, which we kind of were discussing a moment ago in the last topic. But more importantly, drought recommendations, and then following up on therefore how communication to the community, whether we're putting up signs, putting up notices, using the notify me, etc., how that will proceed. So he wrote a section which looks good to me around that. It's highlighted in red in the bottom of this document. He was concerned that he raised an email and to me that Meg had been concerned that there's a certain amount of, and I understand it, concern about the subjectivity of our choices as to whether to call, say that we should communicate this is a drought, there are restrictions, maybe they're voluntary, maybe they're mandatory. And he had wanted to express that we'd have this discussion about subjectivity. And that it was important. It was one of the things that you, Andrew, had pointed out, was that there's going to be some subjectivity. There's going to be some judgment call involved in ultimately synthesizing all the data. One could look at data in a lot of different ways. And ultimately, there's going to be in the best judgment of the committee. So he just wanted that not to sort of stand in the way of being able to make recommendations, that there is some element of subjectivity, that it is, the best wisdom of the people who've been looking at this over the course of years. And, trust us a little bit. We're not really out to call a drought or call an emergency when there is not one.
Thank you, Peter. Meg, do you have any comments on that? You okay with?
Yeah, I think that the formula you set up is good. I think what people, because I've heard this from a couple of community members, is that when you're discussing it, a lot of times the language is, well, it seems like it's mild, but it feels like it's moderate. So let's go with moderate. Like, data said it's mild, there's really no significant, you're like, but it feels better when it's moderate. So like just when you're having your discussions, make sure that you're really leaning into the information that you have and not like the feels.
Fine.
I think
Okay.
that's really the concern, is that that's what people are expressing to me.
All right. And I think our logic for making a decision needs to be clear. So for example, if the data says it's mild, but the data is stale, and we all know that the precipitation since the data closure date has been low, then we might say that it's moderate, but we need to explain that.
Right.
Got it. Okay. All right. So we will exercise judgment and we have to be subjective, but we need to explain our reasoning. Okay.
Then it gives people a little more investment in it.
Fine.
More willing to follow the voluntary restrictions.
Is there anything further we need to do on this topic in that we've issued a drought condition policy? We've forwarded it to the town board. We've now acknowledged its subjectivity and pledged to be clear in our decision-making. Is there anything else we have to do? Hearing nothing, I'll strike it.
About this document, I have nothing to add about the document. I think you're in good shape, although we'll wait for the others. About it's serving as a backdrop to other work that's going on at the subcommittee level. I just want to reserve a moment to comment on that. But I think you have a question that should get answered directly. Greg, did you start to say something about the recommendation? No. Dave, anything?
Nope. Okay, so I'm striking that as done, off the list.
Right. If I could just make them then the comment that I wanted to make, some of, the people who are at, people have a stake on either side of the equation. People who worry that they live near shore and their wells could be salted and they don't want their neighbor watering, or, what Howard was saying, people kind of violating either voluntary or mandatory restrictions. And on the other side, people whose business it is to put in the lawns, as Howard also mentioned. This is the time for reseeding. This is the time for watering. And I just wanted to make sure that we keep all the stakeholders kind of on board. So I had circulated a note to all of you, Sean, to the subcommittee, some key subcommittee members, that is liaisons or members of the WAC that are on the irrigation subcommittee, suggesting, because I was asked, that we allow Walter Richards, who is a landscaper and is concerned about his business and about what we're doing, to join us at the next subcommittee meeting when we're going to be hearing about advanced technologies that can be applied to irrigation. And Sean had signed off, said, it sounds great to me as long as he's not disrupting, that he can listen, it's mostly listening only. But I haven't shared the Zoom link with him yet because I felt that, I'm not entitled to individually. So I just wanted to get kind of the committees and Meg in particular, since she's on the irrigation subcommittee. And, we have in fact restricted the membership of that committee to in-house rather than the landscapers who were invited previously to the subcommittee. So I just wanted to be, is it okay to share that link? The Zoom.
Understand the question. I have a governance question.
Right.
Yeah.
And the governance question is, how are members of subcommittees selected? So is it open,
Well,
are these committees open to the public, or are they?
So no, so the reason it's a subcommittee is so that we don't need the clerk and the minutes and the budget, right? So it's not necessarily open to the public. You can invite people to come in and talk with you. You can invite people to come to your meeting, but I'm gonna say if you share the link with one person, you should share it with everybody. So,
This was a request. So-
Right.
So, I mean, anyone who was requesting a link, in this particular.
What is the link to? The link to is to a Zoom meeting of the subcommittee?
Yeah,
Right.
and of a presentation for the subcommittee around advanced technology, irrigation technologies.
So there's an irrigation specialist coming to talk to the subcommittee so that they can better understand irrigation and the technology and how it's changed and what's going on. And then the subcommittee is going to use that information to help inform changes to the code. So this was someone asking to be there for that conversation.
To follow our work in this particular instance. I mean, I think that Walter has, he attended the last meeting. Several other of the landscapers attended the last meeting. Unfortunately, they didn't really hear much about the subcommittee work because they spoke before we discussed that point. And it's my feeling that our work is going to go more smoothly if we're not surprising people with, that we're trying to gather information from all parties.
So my answer to this question would be yes, go ahead and share the link, and then put on our website somewhere where this subcommittee is discussed, that if others want to join this subcommittee, they should petition the chairman.
Sounds good to me.
Oh, sorry, no, go ahead.
That's not, so originally this was like a community-wide group and we narrowed it down because if we do that, then it has to be public meetings here, like it needs to be more than
Yeah.
what we have the budget for, right? So what it is now you have key people pulling all the information together and then putting it together to do a presentation on it. So we'll have a meeting with the irrigation specialist now to get information from them, and then we can have another meeting with the local contractors to get their take on it. We can have a meeting, and then all that information goes into the code revision, right? So it's like you have this one group of people collecting all the information and then filtering it and putting it together, instead of trying to have everybody from everywhere trying to do it all at once.
So
you know?
your recommendation is keep the working group as it is,
Mhm.
but commit to the public, commit to the public that there's going to be a report out, one or more report outs, okay, before any code revisions are drafted or proposed. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, no, they're gonna see the changes in the code, and the code revisions will have explanations for why changes were made, and those changes and the descriptions will be based on the information that we've collected. So it's just part of the code development process.
But
So I mean, like,
we're,
we're not gonna have like reports on every meeting we have, like with
Right.
formal reporting, but you know, members of the committee can talk about it, what we discussed and what we discovered, and you know, here at your meeting, give like a debriefing of what we're doing in the subcommittee.
so again, this is just a single landscaper asking us if he could have listen-only rights to listen in to what we're doing on this next meeting. And I'm not sure if that's, given Meg's feelings, Sean was good with it, but
I mean,
No, my issue is if you answer yes to that single landscaper, you've got to make that opportunity available to everyone.
right, that's,
So I'm trying to solve that problem by saying no, but I also want to give assurance to that person and others that there's going to be an opportunity for public input.
right.
And
There'll be
I'd
plenty
like-
of opportunities for public input.
I'd like that opportunity for public input actually to be before the code changes are drafted. Because then people tend to get locked in around what they're trying to do, what they've decided to do. So can there be an opportunity for Walter Richards and anybody else to kind of weigh in on this topic before the committee,
Yeah,
before the code provisions are drafted?
yes,
Okay, so is that best done at a water advisory committee meeting? So the subcommittee can report to the water advisory committee meeting, basically saying, here's our thinking, here's where we're going.
well, or the subcommittee can have a meeting with the industry.
The
You know, like,
subcommittee can do that.
Yeah,
I'd rather do it that way.
that's what I would prefer.
Okay. Peter, you okay with that?
Well, I'm uncertain. It feels to me like you're going to be triggering a certain amount of paranoia that's unnecessary. I think what we're doing in this meeting is, learning learning how to make changes that are smart rather than ill-advised. And if Walter Richards hearing what we're hearing about the technology, it triggers him to be able to make more informed comments to us, advisory comments to us later on at a meeting that's open for him to speak. I think it's good. And I think what he'll hear if he attends that meeting is that we're doing our homework and that it will be reassuring to him. So just as a matter of how things work out best, I was a little alarmed at our last meeting, how much time was taken up with basically landscapers questioning, have you done your homework?
Yeah, my issue is giving him special treatment because he's not a member of the committee. If you really want to do that, make him a member of the committee. But I'm happier with the committee doing its work, but then reporting to this committee before it starts to ink its recommended code changes. So
And
that,
I don't have any objection to what you're saying. That makes
that's the
sense.
direction I'd like to go in.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right, everybody okay with that? All right, so let's see, irrigation. So it's actually quite simple. Before the code changes are drafted, the irrigation subcommittee is urged to solicit public, including industry, input.
And also to report back on what we've learned.
Yep.
Right.
to-
Right.
In our open meetings, in our in our public meetings.
Okay. On to item 6, which is USGS 10-year baseline study. This one's got some drama to it. We had expected this study, we have been awaiting, and I'm reporting for Joe Fenora, who I haven't heard from on this. We have been awaiting the outcome of Joe's discussion with the USGS about exactly how this 10-year baseline study will be done, what the testing panels will be, how many wells will be involved, the duration, and ultimately the cost. With regard to the testing panels, we wanted to see some consistency between what was done 10 years ago, from 2016 to 2018, 7 years ago, and the testing panels now so that we could see trends. We also wanted emerging contaminants included, particularly PFAS, so that we could see the level of their level in the aquifer. We have received a proposal, and the budgeted cost at that point on a preliminary basis was between $60,000 and $70,000 for 3 years worth of work. 10 wells, monthly samples, the testing panels, and written report.
Monthly samples?
That's what I was told by Joe. So 10 wells, monthly samples over 3 years. So 10 wells, 12 months, 120 samples a year times 360 samples. That's what I was told by him.
Yeah, that's not what the baseline,
Correct. That's
the baseline was.
surprise is
was
because
a
it was a
sample.
one sample. It was
Per
a
well.
single sampling in each well over 3 years.
Okay, I had a conversation with him and I clarified this, and he told me, that's what he told me in a conversation. We now have a proposal from the USGS. And that proposal is, as I recall, 5 wells, each one twice a year. And the cost over the 3-year period is $240,000. So about 3 times the estimated cost for budget purposes that we were talking about. So that's a bit of a shocker, but that's where it stands. And this will connect to an item I want to add at the end of the agenda, which is about where we are with the budget process, because I've spent this morning with the town board on the budget process. So we're progressing with the USGS in that we now have a proposal, but the cost of that is substantially more. Now, curious as to comments from the members of the committee about, not that much really about the cost, but about the importance of this. And remember, there were 2 purposes. One was to see where we were relative to 10 years ago on a consistent set of of analytes. And then the second was to see where we are on emerging contaminants. Is that still an important desire of the committee?
Go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah,
Dave.
I think so, but I guess my question is going to be, is the frequency really that critical on these components, these compounds?
Yeah,
Are we going to see that big a change in a 6-month period that we'd have to spend that much money?
I don't
So,
know.
so hold on a second. Andrew, I want to question the information that you're reporting back. If you look
Okay.
at the document, it says
Yep.
15 wells.
Is it, I can't remember. I just read it recently. So,
I'm looking at it right now. It
Yep.
says 15 wells. It says, maybe 5 wells per year. It says sampling twice in each well. It does not say,
twice a year.
not a monthly, this is apples and
No.
oranges. So the cost is not based on it being a monthly thing. I believe that
That's right.
the characterization is not quite right, the way you described the study. It is going to be 15 well, it is a broad sampling of wells across the island.
Mhm.
It's more of an annual. I don't know if they're making it semi-annual. That should be clarified. But it's more of it's not a monthly study. Um, and the cost increases are, things have changed in the intervening 10 years, including that there's no subsidies whatsoever
All
involved.
right, so first of all, on the facts, 15 wells, correct? Groundwater quality samples will be collected over 2 years, with 7 wells sampled in 26 and 8 wells sampled in 27.
Okay. So the 15, that's how the 15 are done. And then I think it says something about they'll be each tested twice.
Yes. So each well gets tested twice a year.
Twice in the year, not
In that
each
1
month.
year, yes.
It's not like this, the well
Okay,
level.
okay.
Yeah.
Sample
So-
collection will be doing the late. Where do you see the twice a year?
2 QA/QC samples. The 2 quarterly.
Oh, QA/QC is quality assurance, quality control.
And they're just gonna take 2 samples from each well.
Where do you see that language? What page?
Switching screens.
Well, I mean, it's in the chart, but then it's also on page, I guess, 1, 2, 3.
This isn't in our package, right?
No, I just saw this
Okay.
yesterday or the day before. I mean,
So,
actually, I just got it this morning. All right, so
Let's look at it.
we've taken up enough committee time with it because we're just getting this, and Joe isn't,
Right.
Joe isn't here to explain it. So my question for the committee is set aside the cost, the testing frequency for a minute. My question for the committee is a testing program that allows comparison to the results of 10 years ago and also provides data about emerging contaminants. Is that still our desire?
Sure.
Yes.
Fine.
And,
Okay,
it's hard to set aside the cost, but it's important to note that though it sounds, when you say $240,000, it sounds like a lot of money. That is over the course of 3 years, including data
Yes.
analysis, including, right. It's
Yes.
amortized as, more like, anyway, smaller cost per year.
The evaluation of the baseline, how are those 5 wells that we don't have 10-year-old information? How are we comparing those? Or how do they fit into this?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, that happens to me a lot, actually. We have, the baseline is, the idea is that we took these numbers, we got the work done 10 years ago, whatever it was. And we said, we're really focused on, are we, 10 years from now, we'll be able to know whether or not we're seeing any improvement due to the IA systems. That was the initial goal. That was the goal of putting that, of setting this benchmark location. Now we're doing 15 wells I think it's a fairly significant change in the testing panel.
So,
It sounds like-
Greg,
it
I
sounds-
can answer the question. In the end, the study, they included 5 additional wells in the study write-up that was done 10 years ago, or in the end of 2018, so 7-8 years ago. And they are proposing to include those wells again now. So there was a baseline, even though they weren't part of the initial baseline study. There was sampling that was done for various reasons. The USGS already had programs going on that had caused them to sample those wells as well, so that there would be comparison available over the 10-year period. I would also say, just in terms of the importance here, if we don't do longitudinal studies, if we don't do the long-term studies, if we don't do this now and we don't do this again 10 years from now, how will we know that whether we're falling behind or making progress?
Peter, I completely agree. Okay, so I just am asking the committee to confirm, notwithstanding the cost, to confirm its desire to get data which is comparable and which also addresses the emerging contaminants.
Okay. Oh, so
But we need to understand from Joe more about the testing pattern, how the comparability will actually be achieved. In other words, are we going into the same wells as when we did it before?
please.
They are. It's the same 15 wells that they sampled back in 16, 17, and 18. So on page 2, I emailed this to Jess so she could email it to you guys. They're gonna use the same test wells that they used in 2016, 2017, and 2018 to get the 15 data points last time. So it's the same wells.
It's not 10 wells, it's 15
It's
wells
15.
in the, okay.
Yeah,
It was in the baseline, even though we didn't have to pay for it.
I didn't recall that.
The window between each individual well is gonna be 10 years.
well, I don't know, it depends. No, because they're going to be breaking it into 2 years of sampling instead of 3 years of sampling. Right, so year 1, they're sampling 7, year 2, they're sampling 8, and then year 3, they're working on the lab analysis, in year 4, they're doing the write-up. So there won't be exactly 10 years
Just saying-
between some of these.
Well, and that's what they did earlier in the previous
In the
10-year
previous-
study.
Right, in the previous one, they sampled some of the wells in 2016, some in 2017, and some in 2018.
So I'm just
It's
thinking,
a shorter.
what is the, so some wells are gonna have a nine year, some are gonna have 10, but conceivably something could have 7, right? I mean, if you took in the last study, you took a later well, and now you tested early in that cycle.
Right, it's
It's
possible.
not gonna be
It's possible, but ideally we can help them, the center, for example, was tested in 2016, so it makes sense to test it in 2026.
thank you. That's that
Follow
was
the
my-
same
All right.
pattern that they did.
That's my point, yes, thank you, I didn't say it well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so these are the questions that we're gonna have to ask Joe to report on at the next, right. But for our town board liaison, because I just had a budget discussion this morning, the committee is confirming its desire for a comparable set test panel and the emerging contaminants.
Yes,
Okay, got it.
yes.
All right,
I'm just looking at the lab costs though. Can we just send them to Suffolk County?
okay, all right.
We had that conversation with
Okay.
USGS.
All right, fine.
It's a whole contractual thing.
Uh, Yeah.
But we did try that. Don't think we
Okay.
didn't. We totally tried that.
Well, if they're gonna report it, they wanna have control of that.
So,
They have a higher standard of accuracy and higher standards than even the Suffolk County Health Department does, so.
all right, I'm
They
gonna,
have a higher price too.
okay, I'm gonna table item number 7 because Joe's not here. And go to item number 8, which is
That was me.
that's
Seven.
correct. No, you're not 7, you're 8.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. Okay.
So before I turn the talking stick over to Dave, I just want to compliment this project for its great publicity in the Reporter and its road signs at every major intersection all around the island. So
Thank you.
Dave, with
Thank you.
that,
Well,
you have the talking stick.
right now, I'm looking at the box and hopefully the containers will go down faster than we can replenish them, but I don't think that's gonna happen,
Well,
but.
we've had a few people come
Yeah,
in today.
no, I've seen them.
During the budget meeting, I watched at least 4 people.
I mean, it's only rolled out Thursday, basically. When the reporter newspaper article hit, which Ambrose was just terrific. Asked good questions, took data, took input, wrote up a great story. And the school is hopefully going to get good participation from their families. I think, I'm not clued, I'm not into their communications, but they were going to, I did a separate flyer for them that reflected that they would could pick up the samples within the school rather than having to come here. Dan Williams, excuse me, and the AP teacher are excited. Once we start getting samples in, we'll have to choose the test. I'll let Dan be the guy to do that, which particular analysis kit he wants to use. But I also reached out to the Aqua Chem company to see if they'll donate the test.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, their website does have an educational donation comment on it. I don't have a contact point per se, but I use the technical people that I was talking to earlier. See, maybe they'll move that on. Even so, I mean, the test would come out to $2 a test. So it would just be a nice thing to say. Yeah, Peter.
Yeah, so you and I also had a separate conversation. So I'll catch up the committee very quickly. Fresh Pond has begun, the Fresh Pond Neighbors Association has begun what will be a regular observation testing and just fun dive program. The first instance of that happened last weekend on Saturday. 5 divers were in the pond, went to the very bottom of the pond. And I communicated with you about that. The divers set up a sampling every 6 feet in the 43-foot deepest section of the pond. Those samples were taken by David Hoffman. They're now in refrigeration. And I had asked I'd asked Dave if he thought that to extend this wonderful science program. I'm just so thrilled by what you've got going, Dave, because engagement is the key, and having people and awareness is the key. If Dan Williams and the science program, the AP science program, would be interested in doing testing as well for those samples of phosphorus levels to the degree of accuracy that would be useful. And again, this is something we'll be doing every 6 months, we hope. So the dive team from the Long Island Dive Association will return in the spring to repeat this process, and then in the next fall and thereafter. But so we have these samples, and late breaking this afternoon, I did, Dave, you may want to say something, but you did say that you thought Dan would be excited.
Yep.
And that you'd forward.
No, I forwarded your email to him.
Right, great. And so the question again there was, what's the protocol? How do you do it? And what would the testing be? And I received back from Pio Lombardo that the Fresh Pond project that was already proposed and has been funded includes, and I'm just reading from his email, low-cost on-site P testing, meaning phosphorus, using instruments and reagents. While not laboratory-grade results, the results are good enough for project purposes, as lab analysis would be done periodically to validate local analyses. We can send, i.e. loan, the instrument and some reagents to Dan Williams. He's asking for Dan's contact information and David Hoffman's contact information, along with reordering for agents. They'll just need the instruments back when the project is operational. So the equipment and the protocols are available at no cost for us to use in the high school. Again, it would be 43 divided by 6, so it would be approximately 7 samples that would need to be tested. We would be excited to have the AP Science class engaged in that, and it would add, in addition to the saltwater intrusion, which will stand on its own, a second science study giving us vertical analysis of phosphorus concentration from top to bottom, particularly at around the point where the thermocline breaks at 18 feet, so that we can best target maximum phosphorus removal for the remediation, for the pond remediation. So I just hope to continue to collaborate with you, Dave, and
Well,
and
Why
bring
don't you, I think I don't need to be the middleman. So why don't you-
No, you don't. And I think David Hoffman, who organized the dive, is the right person to, work with us. And Mr. Lombardo also asked, is communicating directly with David. So just again, it's fine. I'm happy to work through you, or if you don't want to be the middleman, if you would forward me contact information for Dan, I'll communicate with him and say we have samples, we have equipment and sampling.
All these efforts,
Yeah, I thought I'll do it again. I thought I did.
all these efforts to engage different parts of the community in these things are fabulous. Okay, so, great. Before we went into Fresh Pond for a minute, but before we leave saltwater, I know we have a member of the public who would like to,
I'll wait till the end.
actually, this is a good time
Okay.
because you're welcome to stay to the end. But this is a good time because Dave's doing this chloride testing, which is all about saltwater and so forth. And I know that was one of your concerns. So
You want me to go here?
take the podium, identify yourself, and if you go much over 3 minutes, I have to do something, but
All right, well,
Go ahead.
So some of my questions maybe just can steer me to maybe other places to get answers instead of wasting your valuable time. I'm John Cadwalader. I'm a resident in Westmoreland. Saltwater intrusion is a major concern. We moved there from Deering Harbor at the end of 2017. Back then, a tinge of salt, I was drinking the water, a tinge of salt in August. Now,
in Westmoreland.
in Westmoreland, now, all the time. So I did, drop off my vials today. I saw it in the paper.
Yeah.
So I was pretty excited about that because I've been wanting to come here to talk about this and other things, all water related. So that was the impetus for getting me out of the house.
Great.
Thank you, well done.
I'd just like to, go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, the results will come back to you.
Yes.
So you'll get, if you put your cell phone on, they'll probably just send you a text on the result. We won't have your numbers.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I have nothing to hide.
Yeah. No, but I'm just,
Okay.
I should have put that in my report.
Yeah, the way it read was you could go on the town website.
Yeah, that's good. The broad neighborhood analysis, but individuals will get, this is my thinking right now, individuals, if that's a cell phone, which
Yeah.
everybody's gonna do,
Yeah,
they'll just get
I
a
almost
text.
used the house number, we never answered, so I think,
Yeah.
just in case.
No, that's,
I would do that.
Yeah.
So maybe some of my questions might be for Joe, who's not here. So the first thing is, can I, as a citizen, contact him directly?
Yes.
He's available to do that, okay. So, because test wells in general, could one volunteer to have a site for a test well? Not even an answer, I'm just putting it out there. And then specifically, I'm interested in how our test wells work. So, because I have all kinds of ideas and I don't know whether they would meet those, those ideas or not. So is there something on a town website, that maybe I should have done more homework. I usually don't go with the computer. So is all that information or any of that information available on the town website? What our, test wells are doing, how they're monitored, what they're looking for, et cetera?
So a test well
Yes,
is not a production well.
right.
It's a unique kind of configuration. I'm assuming you have one domestic well?
One domestic well.
It's probably not suitable as a test well,
Right, no, I understand that.
but, so if you wanted to put a test well on your property, that would be something you would do. And it is a unique construction and design. I would talk to Joe about your interest in doing that. have you had your well tested in Westmoreland?
Well, we had it tested when we first moved in, just as
Yep.
meeting that requirement. And like I said, I'm doing the salt now. I haven't done the Suffolk County, full spectrum thing, but I really not concerned about that particularly. And now it is.
But I think we would recommend that you go ahead and do the Suffolk County Health Department test, partly
Yes.
because it's so inexpensive. It's only $100. And it will give you the reading that you're looking for with chlorides, with salt. I would caution you that if you're tasting the salt, you're going to likely have a problem, because before you can even taste it, you can get up to at the threshold levels of 250 milligrams. You won't taste it, but it will be unhealthy, non-potable water. So I would recommend getting a Suffolk County Health Department test, and I'll take this opportunity to point out that the Water Advisory Committee web page. So you go to the town website, go to Government Committees, Water Advisory Committee. At the very top of that page is a link for submitting your test that you get from the Suffolk County Health Department to us to inform our decision-making
Which is
process.
voluntary.
Yeah, I
Totally
understand.
voluntary, but highly recommended. There's also information about, how, you can either online or by mail sign up for a test, and, it's very little hassle to you. And while you don't have a test well in place, in fact, the most relevant information is what's being drawn at the base of your drinking water well. And they'll give you those readings both before and after, if you have any filtration, both what's raw coming up from that well and what you have after any treatment that you may or may not put in place at any point. So I would strongly recommend, you are a test well, even if you're not a test well, just by doing the test and submitting it to the town.
I understood. You mentioned 250 milligrams as a threshold for
I
what?
believe that's for
Potability.
Potability. We drink bottled water. Right now, I've been weighing what our options are, so I'll just move on. We'll circle back. It's not quite finished, but hasn't been further discussion about the possibility of extending West Neck water out our way.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm just curious because cisterns have their own issues, including an enormous expense. Can I go out and put a new well in? Can I have more than one well on the property? Because that to me, right now, is our possibly cheapest option. But then going back to test wells, or for example, maybe you can answer, and the graphs that you showed for the well testing programs here, again, is that all those handouts and sheets that you were looking at put up here, are they available through
Yes.
the website
All
as
public.
well? Because I can do my own analysis. I'm curious about mean low in a well, mean high in a well, and then in your testing, do these things have potentiometers in them in some way? Because I think, like you were talking about the columns in the pond, certain things tend to settle. I know from my previous experience, for example, nitrates tend to be settled down lower. But how about salt? Do you measure the lens, the freshwater lens in these wells? Do you know? Because once you're down there, and then it's like, if a well is static, then, the salt might sit down there, but you're still going to get some kind of osmotic effect mixing the salt up, into the freshwater column. Am I making
Okay.
sense when I'm
You're
dancing
too
around
far,
this?
you're actually getting into too much detail about your own situation in
Yes.
this public, and for us to really respond in the public meeting.
That's fine.
I think our first,
Looking for guidance.
I think our first recommendation to you is get the Suffolk County test. Because that'll give you a credible baseline as to where you are. That'll tell you a lot.
What about the test we're doing at the school?
I do that too.
Well,
But I'd also get the-
I'll be waiting for the results.
Yeah, I'd also get the Suffolk County test for the $100.
So I have faith that these numbers, will be paying the meter. Because I do have a treatment system and it pegs their meter. It's like, total dissolved solids, but it doesn't.
Okay.
So, and I hope it's okay, but I took the liberty of calling it Unit 1 and Unit 2 so that I had the pre-treatment and the post-treatment. We actually do have.
That's whole, that's whole.
Thank you.
All right.
But I think there were several things that were mentioned there that should get a little follow-up from us. One is, have you considered reverse osmosis under the kitchen sink filtration?
Yes, I have, but that's,
Okay.
that
Because that's
doesn't
a
help my
low-cost option for you.
plumbing system.
Right.
Doesn't help the hot water tank or nor all the piping for the.
Yes, no. You already need to get your pH under control, and it sounds like you're doing that already. If you have a granulated carbon filtration, that's great for the whole house. But for your drinking water, if you're still tasting some salt,
Well, I said we use a lot
lowest
of water.
impact might be an under the sink reverse osmosis treatment. You also mentioned, so it just something for you to explore. You also mentioned the extension of West Neck to homes around Westmoreland. It's the sort of thing, public water is very controversial around here. Nevertheless, I think it would be something, if all the community members around Westmoreland are experiencing problems like that, petitioning for an extension into your area, given that you're neighboring to the West Neck system, would be something that over the long term you might want to be considering as a community. If more than 40% of the members of your community were in favor of such a thing, you would have a very strong argument for asking Suffolk County Suffolk County Water Authority to extend their system in that direction, if at all possible.
Okay. Understood.
All right, happy to have enough for the public meeting. Happy to have conversations with you one-on-one about your situation. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you all.
Okay. Item number 9, which is the center triangle water testing. I'll give an update on that. First, as a reminder of what we're trying to do here, from the November 2023 testing that we did focused on nitrates, a very small percentage of those wells were non-potable on nitrates, something like 8 or 6 out of 158 tests. But 44% of those wells had nitrates between 5 and 10 milligrams per liter. And that is something like double what you would expect to see naturally, which means it's reasonable to at least be concerned that those 44% of wells are under some kind of septic tank influence. That raises the question of what else has traveled with those nitrates to those wells, and whether that, what else, if there are other contaminants that have traveled with the nitrates, whether they render those wells non-potable. So the purpose of this testing is to get at that question. The deliverable to the homeowner participating in the testing will be the full Suffolk County water quality test result. The deliverable to the town will be that test result identified not by address or property owner, but by zone. Remember, we have 13 different zones when we did that original testing. Why are we doing this? To do full panel testing. We only did nitrates and bacteria, nitrates, nitrites, and bacteria before. And the other reason is that the number of tests in some of those zones was so small, like 3, 4, 6, that you really can't draw any reasonable conclusions as to the percentage of the contamination, the extent of contamination in those zones. So we're trying to do more tests and more tests by zone to get relevant information by zone. So the deliverable coming back to the town will be the percentage of potable and non-potable wells in each zone, in other words, by zone, so we can get a sense as to what's going on by zone. What's the method? The town engineer is going to select 20 or so properties to test in each zone. So it's not going to be random. It's not going to be the first 250 people who walk in get tested. We're going to actually make sure that we get a sufficient amount of numbers by zone. The town engineer is going to, then the town will contact those property owners and say, do you want to participate in this? This is why you're going to get your test results. The town will pay for it. And if the number of people in each, satisfactory number of people in each zone say fine, okay, then we go forward. If we get a lot of no's, we'll ask other people in the zone, because again, the point is to get the number of tests in each zone to get statistically relevant conclusions by zone. For reasons that are specific to Suffolk County, they want the resident and not the town of Shelter Island to pay for the tests. So the way this has to work is the resident, the property owner, has to lay out the $100. And when we get confirmation that from Suffolk County that the test has been performed, we will reimburse the resident for the $100. So they got to lay out the $100 to get the test result. They get the test result. We're going to find that out. We'll pay them the $100. I discussed this all with the town board this morning. A majority of the town board is in favor of going ahead with this, which is important. And from a budgetary standpoint, we are going to see if this program qualifies or is eligible for WQI funding. So I need to write a proposal to Jim Eklund to explain all this and request the WQI funding. So that's where we are with item number 9, the testing program update for the town center. Any comments?
Yeah, well, since my employment, I was associated with an organization that did epidemiology, so I'm wondering if the study design passed through a public health person. You know, like if I was looking at it, I'd say, well, why don't we do a case control? Take a house and walk down 3 houses and take that sample at the same time. Right? I'm just thinking of bias being introduced into the selection process. That if we're going to be representing the neighborhood as if the results are going to come back and this is going to be the neighborhood results, is there any bias that's going to be involved in this? In other words, somebody might know that their water isn't terrific and say, yeah, I'll participate. How do you convince the people who just randomly might?
So when Joe and I do this, we're thinking of going down the street or into the various streets and making sure that in our initial request for the 20 in a particular zone, because we have 14 zones,
Yeah, yeah.
We're going to drop a zone. So, I mean, we have 13 zones.
Yeah, this-
We're going to drop a zone, so we're going to be down around 12. 20 gets us to 240. We have a $25,000 budget, so that's 25.
So how are you going to pick the 20? I guess is the
We're going to spread it out in the neighborhood. So in other words, if this is a
Yeah,
zone,
no.
we're not going to get everybody all here.
no.
We're just going to go to the streets.
But then the people who are going to say yes and no, that's the I don't know how to solve it.
I don't know how to solve that
I'm
problem.
just raising it.
Yeah, I don't know how to solve that
Yeah.
problem.
Okay.
You also could cut it 2 different ways. If people know their water's bad, maybe they don't want it tested.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
That's why I was just suggesting
Okay.
maybe the county public health.
Well, we've talked,
Yeah.
we
okay.
have discussed this with the county.
Yeah.
We've discussed our intent
They
with the
like the
county.
study design.
Yeah, they're okay with it,
Okay.
right?
They're okay with reporting back to us by zone.
Yes. Yes. The purpose of us getting the information back to us by zone is so that a third party can't come in
Right.
and FOIA that information. Okay. So,
Well, as you know, the whole idea of us paying for people and then saying, no, we'll only get the zone. That's probably water under the bridge. To
well, I
complain
don't know
about,
how,
but
I don't know, the problem is, if we get the actual information, people will know that someone can FOIA that information and they won't participate. That's the balance we're trying to strike.
yeah. I surrender on that. Clearly, I'm not gonna
And
commission
Suffolk
it.
County Health Department also, they themselves will not, like, they didn't want us to make the zones too small because then it would be somewhat identifiable. They also, when they give us, when we FOIA them, they redact the address, as you know, and we only get the street. So as to, again, they do have a privacy concern of their own, it's not just us raising privacy concerns for homeowners. So this is more a matter of Suffolk County Health Department policy than it is a matter of, our making the choice to not include addresses, specific identities and addresses.
And the second question then, are the zones as constructed now effective in clarifying what the situation is in those zones? I mean, I'm thinking that there's a series of zones that are quite long, and from the center where we think that all problems begin, there might be an 8 or 10 year movement to push the water out, for the water to be leaving the aquifer. And at that point, if you're going to say, look at that, we know this about this zone, and it's, well, 25% of them are non-potable, and another 25 or 30 or 50% are have some level of salt, and then there's some wells. There's 25% of the properties in that zone don't have any trouble with nitrates or salt, whatever.
Okay, let me see if I can answer that. The zonal boundaries are based on the town's understanding of how the water flows in the aquifer.
And my comment says,
Right.
if you're going to look at 8 years of flow and say that's a point that we're going to put on the chart.
No, let me get to the second part of your question. Your question seems to assume that the source of the contamination is actually in the center and is emanating from the center. When you look at the test results, and then you look at the map that I believe Meg produced, or I got from Meg, that showed the smaller lots, and particularly those lots where the well and the septic did not have the necessary separation, those are sprinkled all over the place. So the idea that actually the center is the source of the problem, as opposed to well and I don't actually think that's true. I think that the other source of the problem is this closeness of wells and septic tanks on smaller lots in this entire area. So the zonal boundaries we've got, I think, are fine because they don't necessarily, they allow us to analyze the situation en masse. That's not really clear. Given that there are two potential sources of contamination, one, yes, here, and also individually in individual lots because of the lack of separation between well and septic, the zonal boundaries are fine to understand all that. I think that's the best way of saying it.
Well, you're planning on using the same zones that you
Yes.
used last time.
Yes.
And you don't really know whether or not the center is the big problem.
But the center, it can't be the big problem because it's not one source point of contamination, right? So if all the wastewater were coming right here to the town parking lot and then injecting into the ground, then this would be one sole source point. But every single house, every single property has a point source of contamination, their septic system on their lot. So the water quality in someone's well depends on what's immediately upstream of that well. And that's gonna be very different for every single lot, right? So my well may be immediately upstream of the cemetery and I may have very little contamination coming right down, but my neighbor's well might be downstream of the other neighbor's septic system and they might be getting more direct inflow from the septic system. May not be coming from anywhere up here in the center, it might be coming from their immediate neighbor or a neighbor 2 roads up. So when you look at the mapping, you'll see that it's not necessarily like one point is bad and it's spreading everywhere. You're gonna have this everywhere you have a septic system, you have a point of contamination, a point of potential problem. So it's gonna be very different for every well based on the depth of the well, the age of the well, and everything surrounding that well.
And the
So-
flow, how long it's been moving downstream.
And
And
so,
my point is that if you have a built-in uncertainty, or actually it's a built-in uncertainty by saying, I'm gonna go from here to here, it takes 8 years for that to do that, and I'm gonna say that that slice of the pie is the same for all of that piece. And that's my concern is that it obfuscates, wow. A word I rarely use that word, that obfuscates the actual values, and that you ought to consider more the distance, that you shouldn't be running a slice of the pie that's got 8 years or more to flow out
but that's
of.
still assuming a central source point of contamination. So because the way the watersheds are designed, everybody in this watershed, the water is generally flowing that way. It's flowing this way, it's flowing that way. So
Understood.
at least that's consistent throughout, it's flowing in the same direction. So then once you see where there's contamination, it's easier to understand what could be upstream of that problem, right? Because in that area, you're assuming, what
Which is it?
do you mean?
You're saying that it would be upstream, you have that, you're,
But because based on the watersheds, so
We know which direction.
looking
it
at the
goes.
mapping, you can understand the basic directionality of the ground flow, the groundwater flow.
right, the subwatershed flow,
Right.
okay.
So that's why the zones were mapped the way they were, because each one was part of a watershed and you could kind of anticipate the direction of ground flow in that area. It's gonna go from point A to point B. It's gonna go in that direction. That way, if you had a whole bunch of people with a problem, you can say what's possibly upstream of them. Because you understand that they're in that watershed, and you understand the basic ground flow. Not that it's perfect everywhere or in each zone, but kind of gives you the idea. And it's not a longitudinal study, well, in year 1 it's here, year 2 it's there, because you're gonna have inputs at all different points in this area. But it's just showing that's the direction of flow.
And
That's just-
I'm not gonna win this argument, I understand. I think it's wrong to consider that the zones should be reconsidered to try and not, well,
How?
if you, as Meg says, she's got the information on the presumed water flow and all that, and that in a zone, you shouldn't have, I'm gonna take this, I've got these wells here. Well, actually, these wells here are being tested, these wells here. If that's a single long distance of terms of how long it takes to flow out, it's just a hash of it doesn't give you any precision. It steals you precision. It steals from you the precision that if you had a slice here, okay, a slice here and a slice here, and now is there a change that happens as it flows down?
Okay, so let me respond to that. What we're trying to do is figure out functionally what people are drinking. Okay? We want to know whether people are drinking water that is potable or not by location. Okay? So if we get in a zone.
Zone, not by location.
Yeah, okay, but if we test 20 wells in a zone, and we've got 10 of them that are non-potable for any number of reasons, we know we've got an issue in that zone.
All right, but however, that zone, that slice of pie,
May
all of
vary.
those bad wells might be on this end of that slice of pie, and all the good ones may be on the end. Every year, there's dilution in the aquifer due to rainfall. And that as it moves down, the rain comes down and it mixes in and
So where I'd end up, if I get 50% of the wells in a particular zone that are coming in non-potable, we know we have an issue in that area. So what are we going to do? Okay, we'll probably go do further testing in that zone. If we have a bunch of other zones with very low percentages of non-potability, it's safe to assume that there isn't anything that's affecting large portions of the zone. The individual well owners in those zones will know their results so they can act on them. But because you don't have the concentration of the contamination, you're probably not looking at some kind of communal solution to that particular problem. So it's going to allow us to prioritize to really understand where the contamination exists. And it's going to allow us to focus on those areas. Now, maybe we have to do more testing in the zone to really understand it. I don't know. Depends what the data says.
if you fix the zone, if you avoided these really long sub-watershed flow, like 12, 13, I think, 14 and 15, they're all quite long.
Andrew, might I comment?
Yes, Peter, go ahead.
So I shared Greg's concern here, and I've shared it. I share it for reasons that Greg didn't elucidate exactly. You brought up, Andrew, you brought up a very important point that the problem might not be being downstream of the very center of the town. Like Meg said, it isn't a point source exactly at the center of the town, although we do have the school and the municipal buildings here. What you brought up, Andrew, was that the issue might be density and the density within in the center. The concern that I had added to the picture was that its density and made it worse by the smallness or the lack of depth near shore of the groundwater aquifer and the groundwater lens in a given area. So density over less dilution. All those are concerns that led me to agree with Greg that it would be wise and there would be some wisdom to dividing some of these long zones that go from near shore to center into two zones. I was dissuaded from that partly by the USGS saying they don't want the zones too small to prevent anonymity.
Right.
Also, I am dissuaded by the fact that we did a previous study basically based on these zones and we found something and and now we want to follow up. It's worth, again, having some consistency. And then finally, I was dissuaded from Greg's point of view here because we can do that the analysis by FOIA-ing the data from the Suffolk County Health Department on a street level basis. There are many streets that are short and in just a specific area, and we can begin to tease out, is there a greater problem at the end of a zone that's closer to the shore or at the end of a zone that is closer to the center? We will be able to tease that information out, and I will, if I'm allowed to continue to do this work for some years more, continue to shoulder to the wheel on trying to tease out this information a little bit. I am concerned that the nearshore area is downstream in all cases from the center, and is also the smallest groundwater lens. So therefore, potentially the highest concentration. But right now, the center of town is the dense area of town. And if our concern is that density is causing problems, or statistically making it more likely that you will be downstream from a neighbor's effluent, I think that persisting with the study we have, building on the study that we've done with just nitrogen and finding out what else is in the water in statistically, how many houses have high PFAS, have 1,4-dioxane, whatever it is worth our while.
Or maybe they don't have any of it,
Or maybe it's fine, right?
right? Meg,
And
I
it'd be
just
nice to
thought-
know too.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that practically, so zone 7 and zone 6, which are the long zones that go essentially down to West Neck Creek, or
Mhm.
West Neck, yeah. Really, practically, it's only the front half of each
Correct.
zone that has something that would be tested, because the back half is all farmland and
That's
the
correct.
recycling center. So the only reason those were extended was to make it look like the triangle, so people understood where the points of the triangle were. So we can cut off half of those zones and just make them more rectangular, because there's nothing there to test. They're just shaped like that because that's what made the triangle visual for everybody, but there's really nothing tested on the half of that.
okay, so you're saying 7 and 6,
Correct.
which are the long ones that run to the
Right.
west.
Right,
You could
really,
chop them in half
You
and you
could.
really wouldn't lose a lot of properties.
you're not gonna lose anything really, because zone 6 is all the farmland,
Yep,
and so the half is zone 6.
Yep.
Won't get tested. Same thing with zone 7, because that's the recycling center. So we can cut both of those in half so that, people understand that it's actually not that entire expansive thing. And that, you won't lose anything. There was no samples taken out of that far end.
Can I ask something?
sure.
Since I'm new, but I haven't been following this, what's, do you sell them an IA system or you sell them an RO? So what's the next, after you get the information, what do you do?
Okay, so this is focusing on potable water,
Okay,
okay, on drinking water.
yeah,
If you get the information and you see, it depends what information you get. If you see pockets of contamination that looks like that, one, it's significant. In other words, it's non-potable and it's non-potable by a bunch, and it's geographically limited, you're going to say to yourself, well, that's an opportunity to do something, a multi-residential system of some kind, and you're going to cost that out. If you see a lot of scattered contamination, in other words, frankly, not a lot, and geographically dispersed, then that's the most cost-effective way to do that, is probably individual house treatment, point of use treatment. We don't know at this point because we don't know what the contamination is or where it is.
I'm just thinking before we spend the bucks, there must be some way to ballpark those two.
Okay, so last year,
Yeah, I know.
I did a bunch of work around looking at the cost of, to the individual homeowner.
I was there.
Right, and I sent you.
I'm just thinking for the small group that you just mentioned, what's the cost on that?
Well, the comparison that I did last year was based on 175 customers.
Yeah, I mean, I thought you were talking about like a dozen houses.
Well, I don't know.
No,
I'd have to
that's-
call,
that's
but
fine. I'm just, okay.
Or,
one could, and this is where one could spend a lot of time studying hypotheticals.
Yeah.
Um,
Just one hypothetical. Well, let's say 12 houses. I don't know.
One could spend a lot of time studying hypotheticals, okay, that I'd rather not do.
No,
All right.
Hypothetically, you can.
So,
no, it's,
But it also depends a lot
but
on.
actually, I just want to see the data.
no, I know that.
I'm trying to see,
Yeah. no.
is there a problem and what is it, before trying to design a lot of solutions and get everybody stirred up about solutions.
Designed it for a lot of, I'm just thinking, what's a typical 12 house?
I don't know how I'd configure it.
I don't know either.
I don't know. I don't know if you need 2 wells. I don't know if it's regulated. I don't know any of that.
And it depends if it's adjacent to a system that can be extended,
Or if you have to put one in, what's,
or whether, so the hypotheticals,
yeah.
as Andrew is saying.
You got to find a location for the well. You've got to do source water protection for the, around the well.
So
But either way, people
Yeah.
have to know. People do need to know what is the, what is the game of roulette that they're playing? What is the statistical likelihood that a given house in a dense area of the town has got a problem, any particular problem?
See how many people come back with low chloride test results. That would be an indication of how concerned they are.
And another thing, it's got to be all of the above. So we were talking about the USGS testing program, and we're also talking about we now fortunately have the submit your test link right at the top of the WAC page, and those do give us exact locations. I've submitted my test. I've submitted for a couple of other people as well. I suggest I didn't submit your test, Dave, but if you would, be so kind, it would, we're willing.
Absolutely, sure.
Howard as well. I mean, let's get these let's get these voluntary submissions of specific points on the map.
If I could just,
Yeah.
so if I heard this correctly, is that like you have some level of agreement that maybe some of the long zones might be worth
You can
cutting
only
them.
cut them in half because the whole back half doesn't have any land that's gonna be tested.
Yeah.
It's just the farms, it's
And-
horse
and-
farm and it's the recycling center.
Yeah.
And to just continue this, potentially exclude zone 14.
Yes.
This sheet doesn't have zone 14.
Sorry, here are the numbers.
It's the one that's on Banana Peninsula. It's on
Okay,
the-
it's a triangular, it's a triangle in a
It's the
triangle?
triangle in the
Yeah.
triangle that's
Yeah.
outside of that
Yeah.
whole like.
Yeah, I'd have to say that one does seem,
Zone
That
14
was low
had,
nitrogen in the
it
past.
had no nitrogens over 5.
Right. Across the water.
Right, it's on the other side of the water.
which compared to the zone next to it, if that zone was zero non-potables, and the one just above it, which is so long, how many? I'm glad to hear that we can take a look, that you will be taking a look at the zones and say, let's see if we can
Yeah.
make some better logic to identify not just the flow, but the time of anticipated time of flow of the subwatershed, and maybe slice and dice some different manner.
Okay, so
Maybe,
we'll come back to you. We'll come back to you with the configuration.
I'll try and be calm.
Oh, no, that's fine.
You don't really
No.
have a handle on the actual aquifer flow.
Yeah.
Yes,
What's
You
what's
mean
it-
like,
it's
Is
fair.
it down, out, and down, or how does it, it's three-dimensional,
it is
and
three-dimensional.
we know that, I mean, we have a handle on
I mean, it typically comes down and out.
Right.
I mean,
rates and things like that. In other
Right.
it
words,
depends on the contaminant, how it's going to mix with, it's very contaminant driven as to what
So,
depth the contaminant sinks to
we
essentially.
know those things.
Yeah, and actually, when we spoke to the Suffolk County Health Department, they gave us information that the different PFAS and PFAS compounds behave differently,
Yeah.
and some are concentrate as they flow, and some disperse as they flow. So obviously very complex. We're not going to have a full analysis on that. Best to get a statistical sense of how likely you are to have a problem, given.
So,
Each contaminant behaves a little differently.
Mhm.
and to answer your question, do we really know what's going on in the aquifer in terms of where things are flowing, what the rates are, the
Do we know
directions?
vectors? Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, the answer is, we can guess.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of work to try and to make better guesses, but fundamentally they're guesses.
Yeah.
That's the best we can get.
Statistical.
Yeah. But again, this analysis is around what people are actually drinking, the functional kind of reality of what's going on in their wells, and trying to understand where they're potability issues and why and in what concentration.
On a statistical basis.
Yeah. Okay, so that's, now I want to just summarize where we are with the budget. Last year, we had a budget of $56,000 for the committee, all the committee's activities. I proposed a budget of $101,000, which the numerous among us will recognize is a significant increase. That budget request went up another $50,000 when we got the cost from the USGS for the 10-year baseline. Okay, so now we're up around 150,000 requested in 2026 against 56,000 approved in 2025. There is an opportunity, or there may be an opportunity to shift some of that over to the WQI. In my discussions with the town board this morning, there was support for the undertaking. In other words, these were viewed as valid objectives, valid things to do. There was head scratching about the funding. There was a desire, and there was support across the town board to petition the WQI. So there wasn't a reaction like, what the heck are we doing this for? It was like, there seemed to be a reaction of, look, we got to do this. This stuff's important. We just got to figure out how to fund it. So that's where we're sitting with the budget. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
From the, and I want to thank the town board for right now listening to all this a second time.
It was 169, it is 69,
Yeah, it was up there.
69,000 in addition to what the original asked.
Right.
Well, again, the WQI operates under a modified approval of what type of projects you could approve with WQI funds. That's now been changed. There's an organization, it's like 12 members. It's the town supervisors and there's a group of about a dozen people that are going to, if a question comes up, is this legitimate for the WQI to pay for this? That group is the ones that are going to tell us whether or not.
Okay.
So waiting, I think they're still in a, Amber's not here, I guess. The organization, they're trying to cobble together what the organization of this group is going to be. The last time I asked Amber about it, which was about a month, 2 months ago. So getting clarity as to what the proposal is, what's supposed to be the game, getting that into the hands of this committee of 12 is
Okay.
important,
So-
time-wise.
The next steps, and this is per Amber, the discussion this morning, the next steps were Amber is going to ask the town attorney for guidance on this, and I'm going to write a proposal and submit it to Jim Eklund.
She didn't mention the group of 12?
Yes, she did mention the group of 12.
But
Yes.
that's only if it's not clear in the legislation, whether we can or can't.
Well,
So
you know,
there's a new update to the legislation, so we have. to-
there's a new update?
I believe there was. an
How,
update
how long ago?
a couple months. So I think there was an update to the legislation, so we're gonna have the attorney look at it and see if that's any clearer than the first round.
Okay, because I know they wiped out all the categories that existed and said that group of 14 or 12, the mysterious committee. Okay,
Yeah.
Okay. So, but my takeaway is to write a proposal to Jim Eklund, who's the head of the WQI, and Amber said she was going to the town, the town attorney on the eligibility.
to see whether it's in there, okay.
Right. Okay. That gets us through the stated agenda. Is there anything else for the good of the order?
One thing that I did not touch on, I don't know if people would be interested in seeing what happens in June to, this was June to the September, end of September. could you put it's the one, it looks like it's, I think in terms of, well, how do you know you're really, how do you know what's going on? This is the Goat Hill wall, and if you can just scoop down a little bit and get the chart. I think it's, I think when you see something like this and you say, okay, yeah, it's a little bit below there. So, that up to June is that little horizontal period of time of the well.
Yes,
And then it's June to the end of August, and actually it continues down. This is a time period of where the equipment failed.
okay, that's the blank.
That's the blank zone. And then this comes down, and the last couple of days, this has just started to edge up already.
So what's the y-axis?
This is the height of the water level.
In feet?
In feet it is.
Is that other stuff noise? Those other black bars up higher, is that noise?
Those are median values, which I haven't found them very useful.
So, sorry, the y-axis is feet?
Yeah, well,
Yeah, this
Over what?
this is time, June to the end of September,
No.
and this is the number of feet.
water table height.
So we started in June, somewhere along
This is down.
6.4 feet,
Okay.
Datum.
and now we are down at about 5.0.
So it's dropped a foot?
Dropped a foot and a half, yes. Across this year.
That's the datum.
Right. So it's just an arbitrary level.
Well,
Yeah.
And the upturn is not very large.
Determined sea level
Got
around
it.
the whole place.
Got it.
I
Okay.
don't know how arbitrary.
That was just a constant.
Yeah, that's their reference point.
Got it.
I think it kind of shows like that a lot of people would wonder, well, how do they know where the water level is, what the
Yeah.
water level is? This is the output of the wells that we get.
Okay, so if Walter Richards were here, he would say, okay, we're 6 feet, we're 6 feet above. How far down does that fresh water go?
Oh,
Well,
what's the depth of the aquifer?
and then we look at the other table and we go, over the last 25 years, how low does it go? It went to 4 point something.
What you're asking is how deep is the aquifer?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I understand that it,
Oh, the depth of the aquifer?
well, this is based on a,
But then,
What
I
is-
don't think that's a good, it's
It's not the Heisen, it's the.
It's not like,
Right.
not like you have a big
no,
bucket.
I understand that it's but it's still,
It's how much how close you're gonna get that well level to the datum level, in which case you're below the sea level.
yes,
That's the real important question, not the depth.
So, yeah, that is the height over, that sea,
Over the salt
or
level.
the mean, not sea level. Yes, the mean, that's the mean level, and it's at the beginning of June, it was 6.4
Yeah.
above the sea level.
right?
And that's not exactly where the saltwater boundary sits.
Right.
The freshwater pushes down on the saltwater boundary, as I understand it, creating that lens shape.
Mhm.
However, but this is the subject of another study that is somewhere in our budgeting, or to some extent not is free to us, but USGS is intending to put in a well to test where the saltwater boundary really is, at least in the center. That isn't Goat Hill, I understand. We have a proposal yet to be fully fleshed out for magnetic testing in the nearshore areas of the saltwater boundary, where that actually is. But obviously you start to be in a range of concern if you're down below sea level.
Yep. Yes, understand. Okay, anything else for the good of the order?
Just wanted to share that.
Well, just to expand on what Peter, if Goat Hill gets down below, gets close to sea, the people on the waterfront should be even more concerned.
Right.
Yeah,
The lens is getting
Yeah.
pretty thin by the
Yeah.
time you get down
Exactly.
there.
I think as low as we've ever gone has been a 4 and change that I have on the data from.
Right. It is, we're not in a reassuring period in terms of recharge yet. And yes, there's a slight upturn at the very end of that graph, but it ain't much. It looks like within the range of the squiggle.
Okay,
How much? You can close me out.
yes. Is there anything else for the good of the order? Yes. Sure.
You can't do it together.
Hi, Alex Dupree. I would like to submit my data. How many years do you want?
Oh, I
I
think it's,
have the past 3 years and I'm expecting this year's in the next month or so for 2 different houses. I'm in both the near shore and the center triangle.
I'd properly date it and we'll take all of it.
Okay, because some of it will show things like I did have salt intrusion, but I had my well point raised and so far I've been okay. Things like that that are, you know, it's been potable, it's been not potable.
I would say, make sure they're dated so we can actually,
They definitely are.
okay, and submit all of it.
Okay, all right.
And yeah, I would actually, Alice, I would suggest where there are important notes, write
Okay.
up those notes, type up those notes,
Okay.
include them with the PDF if you can. And then so that we have, you know, okay, yes, it looks good, but we raised our wellhead 2 feet.
Right, I'm just holding my breath on that one.
Yeah.
And if I submit those, do you still want me to take these?
These,
Oh, the salt one?
The tests
Yes.
as well, and
Sure.
do that as well.
separate,
Okay,
right?
all right. I just don't want to take them if I'm taking away from someone else.
Nope.
No, no,
Okay,
Nope.
it's
Did
free.
you raise your point? How much did you raise your point?
about to.
Okay, so I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Well, I had.
Second? Okay, done, 4
All
o'clock.
right, good. 4 o'clock, congratulations.
Okay, Jessica, we're